From Washington, D.C., thanks for tuning in and welcome to the Harness Racing Alumni Show. I'm Freddie Hudson, and I'm here today with Trade Martin and Bob Marks.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show with your hosts, Freddie Hudson and Trade Martin.
This week's Alumni Show is brought to you by Long Island's Century 21 American Homes Associate Broker, Joe Rico. If you're buying or selling your home, Joe Rico is your go-to guy. Joe has been representing buyers and sellers on Long Island for 30 years. He is an expert in all types of sales. Don't settle for average. Call or text Joe Rico today at 516-524-4870. That's Joe Rico at 516-524-4870. Today's special guest is standardbred trainer Brent MacGrath, the trainer of the great Somebeachsomewhere. Brent, welcome on our show.
Thank you, Fred.
Brent, you bought Somebeachsomewhere for $40,000. Was that your final bid?
You know, I say that, and that was my plan. But I loved the horse, and I mean, we didn't have a money problem or anything. It's just that was the budget that I had set. And I mean, like I said, I loved him. I thought we owned him at 20, to be honest. And somebody new jumped in, and it was very painful for the underbidder. I'm not sure who it was, but he was very slow bidding, and I was very fast. And you know, I tried to time it and judge it so I would hit the 40. But at the end of the day, I don't know that I probably would have found a little more because I just loved the horse. And he was in our price range, and he checked all the boxes. He was Ontario sired, big, strong colt, and just what we were looking for.
Well, when you bought him, you probably were buying him for the Ontario Sire Stakes. When did you start to suspect that he might be something better?
Well, you know, I don't push him very hard. I just kind of go along with him. He was doing everything we asked him to. He was very healthy. He was feeling very good. And whenever you brought him up to whatever speed you wanted to, you go there all day. All those signs were very good, but you don't know until you get them behind the gate and get into a little bit of a fight and see how they handle that. And, you know, qualifying, he was very impressive here in Truro, Nova Scotia. And, you know, he kicked home 28 seconds on a qualifier in 2 minutes, which was a good mile here for the work that he had into him. But really, when we got to Ontario with him, and the first time we took him over to Mohawk to train him, Paul trained him. We went over the half and 3 with him, won a mile 58. He paced the back half in 55. Very easy. You know, Paul was, and I mean, I'd been around drivers a lot, and a lot of the catch drivers are always downplaying the trainers, you know, with their opinion on the horse. You know, don't get too high on them, blah, blah, blah. And the first question Paul asked me when he come off the track that day was, is he paid into the Metro? And, you know, he hadn't had a race yet. So for Paul to ask that question, you know, I kind of perked up then. And I asked him, I said, so you think he's that kind of horse? Oh, yeah, he said, he's that kind of horse for sure. But really, you know, it was the next year as a 3-year-old. When he won the North American Cup, he had bruised his foot, bruised the coffin. And he was lame. He was lame warming up in the North American Cup. And when you put him on the gate, he just put that behind him, and he just kept getting better and better. I mean, that showed the kind of horse. He pulled away from those horses halfway through the stretch in the North American Cup as a 3-year-old and not himself. And obviously he just got better after that. So, you know, who knew he was going to be the kind of horse that he was? We knew he was a nice horse before he ever had a race into him. But we've thought that about other horses, too, that really didn't pan out or were a bit disappointing. So it's a long answer to a short question, but at the end of the day, you know, we liked him all along. When he stepped up in the North American Cup and basically did what he did there, and really, you know, then after you get beat in the Meadowlands pace, you wonder, you know, how's he going to handle that? How's he going to bounce back from that? Because that tells the tale a lot of times, too. I mean, he just got better after he got that beat. And I remember calling the gentleman that was feeding him for me in the morning, you know, worrying about, well, you know, how's he going to handle this tomorrow morning when the feed gets thrown into him? And I called him about 5:30 to ask him how Beach was feeling about his feed. And he said, I didn't know if he was going to eat me or the feed tub. So, you know, that was a good sign. And obviously he was just a great horse and everything about him. They used to say, you know, I pulled his blood regularly. And the vet lab would say, well, if there's something wrong with Beach's blood, it's probably the machine, because we calibrate we calibrate the machine with his blood. which, you know, is quite ironic for him to end up with cancer and die with cancer, and his blood had been so perfect and he'd been so healthy his whole life. Never had a temperature, just was a very, very healthy horse. Anyway, I jumped ahead a little bit.
Well, he was a great raceway horse. Did you ever expect him to become the stud that he became?
You know, no. You know, Dr. Egloff makes the comment that, you know, I think he was probably the greatest pacing horse that ever lived. He said, I know he's the greatest pacing sire that's ever lived. And, you know, and I wasn't expecting that. I thought he was going to be a good sire. I mean, you know, we hadn't heard him. He had been sound. You want to put away sound. And, you know, he was such a great outcross especially for the Hanover mares, all pacing mares. And he came along at the right time. So he got a lot of good mares. We probably heard his stallion career. The original 6 owners of the horse kept 80% of them with no mares. And you know, everybody knows that it's hard to get support for a stallion when they have to pay fund fees year after year. We only sold, I think, 18 breedings to him, 18 shares in him. And so we had to sell all the breedings is what we had to do. And then 3rd, 4th year, that's tough, no question. You know, and I'm sure that some people didn't breed their very best to him. You know, they had other stallions they might own shares in, and for whatever reason. But, you know, I don't think he got the support that some of the rest of the stallions had gotten. He got support. Obviously, it was hard not to breed to him. But at the end of the day, I don't think he didn't get the support some of them did. He didn't get the quality of mares some other stallions have gotten. There's no question about that. So, back again, answering your question, yeah, we thought he was going to be a great stallion, obviously, or we would have sold them all and kept a couple of shares or a couple of breedings. We didn't. We kept him. We believed in him. And one of the reasons that we did that, you know, it'd be nice to say today, and you guys believe me, that we really knew he was going to be that kind of a stallion. But at the end of the day, we paid $40,000 for this horse, and he was going into his breeding career with $3.6 million made. So one thing we were concerned about, if we sell over 50% of this horse, we no longer have control of him, and he made us $3.5 million. And if he bombs as a stallion, you know, these guys might not be thinking quite the same way for his future as we are. He owes us nothing. So it was very, very important to us to keep control of the horse, and obviously we did. And yeah, it worked out. It worked out certainly in our favor.
Hey, Trey, do you have anything to add in here?
I was wondering, how did you deal with a bruised coffin bone? How did you deal with it? Did you soak them?
We did. We tubbed them, and we put the bar shoe on them. In fact, he lost the bar shoe in the first race before the North American Cup, the Burlington it was called at that time, and he lost that bar. He couldn't handle it at speed, and I remember Paul saying when he got off, when he come back to the winner's circle, he said he didn't get good gaited until that shoe flew off, and blew shoe off, and come up between his hind legs, and hit a vein. The nail hit a vein in his just by his hobble by his hobble strap, hobble hanger, back hobble hanger, and Paul is covered with blood. And I'm looking that he clipped the quarter. I thought he must have clipped the quarter, right?
Yeah, right.
And the shoe, this big bar shoe with a pad on, is laying in Paul's lap. And I remember as soon as we zoned in and seen the blood, or seen where it was coming from, I said, "Geez," I said, "Paul's lucky that didn't hit him in the testicles. It's better hitting you than him." And I don't know if Paul agrees with me on that one, but that was my take on it. And he did get better gated. Back to your question, we tubbed them. We put them in the spa a lot. We tubbed them a lot. Shockwave therapy, we use that on him.
Did you swim him a lot?
Well, no, he never swam. But he was at Bay Karen Training Center, and they had like about a 2-mile trail through the woods of deep sawdust. And that's where he went every day. I jogged him there. In fact, before the North American Cup, they had a bit of a straightaway there. And I brush him along some 8s and 18 seconds with the hobbles on him through this sawdust. I mean, it was flying everywhere, but he was sound. Jogging to the sawdust track, he had a bit of a head nod when he hit the sawdust track, it just felt so good to him. He would leap in the air and go and buck and play, and he loved it. So it was just it was really a cross your fingers and try to keep him in shape for $1.5 million race when I can't train him the way that I want to. And but we got enough work into him that he done what he needed to do, and he just kept getting better.
Where did he finish when he threw the shoe?
He win.
Oh, he win at that.
Yeah, he only got beat once. He lost the Meadowlands Pace was the only race he lost.
I see. But he got better gated when he lost the shoe.
The heavy shoe come off. Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
That's right.
That's funny. That's funny.
He went a half a mile with no shoe on, and to kind of understand his gait and how light he was in his feet. When we got back to the paddock and got him back, you would never know that shoe wasn't on the foot. His foot wasn't broke up a bit, wasn't wore down, wasn't rubbed off, and that's pretty abrasive stuff there at Mohawk, that trap rock. He was the real deal for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Well, anyhow, that brings us to the end of this week's show, and I love the story of Somebeachsomewhere. He's one of my all-time favorite horses.
We're very, very happy with your interest, and Beach loved to win, and I love to talk about him winning. So it was a good recipe. We were very fortunate to have him, and we know it.
Brent, thank you so much for being on the show. You were great. This week's Harness Racing Alumni Show is brought to you by Indiana Standardbred. Help is on the way. The son of Chapter 7 is now standing stud at Maple Lane Farm in Indiana. Hurry, there are still some 2021 season bookings available. Help is on the way. For booking your mare or for more information, contact Karen Weaver at 717-252-0721. Help is on the way. Contact Karen Weaver at 717-252-0721. This is Freddie Hudson, and that's a wrap for this week's show. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to tune in next week.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show